This has been a hard week for YNW Melly. New evidence revealing his location when the crime happened, new text messages between him and his mother, and so much more. Here's what you need to know. The trial opened with new text messages between YNW Melly and his mother Jamie King. Jamie has been very popular this week during trial, however the text messages are the most concerning. Melly's messages are in the green, while his mother's are in the blue.
From phone number 9807. Why you keep messing with people? What's wrong with you?
Phone number ending in 6942. What are you talking about? I'm not even on no social media. That talking about what she going to do to me. I ain't respond or say anything.
Leave that alone. I'm telling you. You started.
No, I didn't start anything. Just because you think it's okay for people to call your mom out her name. How is his sister going on social media talking about me in face, my fault?
You started it by testing his mama. It's going to be problems. And not even knowing what you talking about. You a grown lady doing. Ain't no one telling you to text her. She minding her business going to work.
It's very clear YNW Melly is frustrated with his mother for bothering his ex-girlfriend, YNW Sakchaser, and YNW Sakchaser's sister. The start of their issues began with allegedly YNW Sakchaser's sister having an altercation with YNW Melly on social media, where Sakchaser's sister called her out and said that it's on sight when she sees her, leading into Sakchaser getting involved in the middle. This would then result in YNW Melly getting involved, as this didn't settle well for YNW Melly in the slightest, causing the massive argument with his mother, and it didn't even end there, as the text messages would continue stating,
"She could have called me or texted me back, not have you or daughter all on social media talking about like I at her. I didn't even say one word when I texted her. I said nothing disrespectful and you know it. I wish you took up for me like that when Aunt me out and tried to me. I don't know what's all going on, but he making a live video talking about your mother. It's going to make people hate you. That's why I have never and would never do that, because I love you and that's your best friend, and this is not for social media."
You telling everybody my business, and you don't even be right. You the reason they hate me.
No, I'm not your actions I take up for you. I have people telling me your son doesn't care about you or love you. I always say you just finding your way, and I know you love, even though you me and don't see how much I for you every day. I argue with people about talking trash about you, even though people say he would not take up for you like that. I always have your back. Every time you call, I am there. That's your friend, fine. He ain't going nowhere. I see, but you are not going to say everything is my fault.
In that section of text messages is where I believe brought up the famous video of YNW Melly's mother calling out YNW Sakchaser. Melly's mom mentions something about a live video being created against her. This is what made her go on Facebook Live on her own account and saying this about YNW Sakchaser all those years ago.
Show me text messages from Sakchaser, all her friends, and all these people, like he's about this life. But I'm sitting here like, who you ever out at? What you ever did? You couldn't even take charge. If you don't sit your down and don't ever come for me, because my credentials is real. It ain't even a joke. So don't ever try to come for me, because I don't even play them type of games. Like, what you got that I ain't got? Oh, you your look. I got big. At the end of the day, Melly is my child.
As everything is now starting to connect and pieces are all coming together during this trial. We've known that video of YNW Melly's mom now for the last 3 years, but we never knew the context behind it. The text messages would continue on being shown in the courtroom, however. These messages I'm about to share are 10 days after the text messages you've already seen.
"Okay, everyone went home. I love you. Keep doing great music. I'm proud of you. You're my heartbeat. I cry all the time. I miss you so much, but I know I have to let you grow up.
No need to cry. You fit to be a millionaire.
You deserve it. You're so talented. We play your music all night. I love you.
Love you too. I see you be chilling. I love that. Keep doing you. Everything gonna be in place."
as this is where things get a little strange. It's obvious YNW Melly and his mom made up in that clip, exchanging I love yous to each other, but it's where YNW Melly says everything's gonna be in place, which gave people on social media a very weird feeling. YNW Melly's lawyers knew that this was gonna happen, and they didn't want the jury to feel weird either, which is why it was announced. YNW Melly's defense attorney objected to the presentation of text messages between the rapper and his mother in court on Wednesday. He's calling his mom words and all sorts of manner of disrespect.
A number of mothers on that jury who may be inclined to convict just because they've heard irrelevant, unrelated conversations between Mr. Demons and his mother, where he's calling her and all sorts and manner of disrespect that is clearly off-putting to anyone. And under the pretext that they're trying to prove this phone belongs and is being used by Mr. Demons, the state is offering in reams and reams, tons and tons of inadmissible evidence that is irrelevant to this case. There is a point at which they sat there for 2 hours showing 530-something photographs.
He doesn't want those text messages being shown, as it shows YNW Melly in an overall negative light. Another report would go to share, yes, Mr. Howard, that's exactly what she's doing with those text messages. Trying to paint YNW Melly as a bad person any way she can because she knows she doesn't have a strong case. She has taken on more than she can handle and overcharged. And she can't prove it, so she's using feelings instead of facts. As some believe, the prosecutors are trying to show YNW Melly as a bad overall person for how he talks to his mother. YNW Melly's lawyers were trying everything that they can do for these text messages to not be shared. As we would see a report of, YNW Melly's attorney, David Howard, has filed for another mistrial in the rapper's case. This would be quickly denied by the judge for one specific reason. That reason is the evidence that Trayvon Glass shared just the day prior. YNW Juvy's family allegedly got Trayvon to take the stand during trial. Mind you, Trayvon was never a friend of YNW Melly. He was actually Juvy's best friend, and YNW Juvy is the one that invited him to the recording studio on the night of the crime, not YNW Melly. Melly's lawyers were arguing to the prosecution and to the judge that Trayvon should no longer be allowed on the stand, as he was never on the witness list for a very long time. This is even Melly's lawyer arguing the point.
On the stand is knowingly, Judge. They knew in the deposition, 1. 2, they knew when I put him on notice with my motion. So they had the opportunity after the deposition, 2, after my motion pointing out we violated the rule of sequestration, just not to call them. They, however, are going to continue to proceed knowing he has violated the rule and put him on the stand. So yes, when we look at it that way, the state may be acting inappropriately.
Trayvon's job on the stand was to basically mention if there was any tension between the YNW group at the recording studio. However, he also answered one really serious question that is most likely going to affect YNW Melly in the trial. It reads, YNW Melly's friend confirms that Melly changed his clothes at Fredo Bang's house on the night of the crime.
Okay. Was that the first time you saw Melly after you guys left the studio?
Yeah.
Was Melly wearing the same clothes or different clothes than when you saw him at the studio?
It was a new bit. Nah, he wasn't.
Nah, he wasn't. You guys
Wasn't wearing the same clothes.
Okay. Do you recall what he was wearing?
Just had on some shorts.
And
with the trial being live streamed, it seemed as if Trayvon was warned by someone to stop saying so much during the trial as well, which is a little concerning.
So Trayvon Glass has been really active on Instagram since he finished his testimony today. So he posted this on Instagram, and you can pause to read it, but in a nutshell, he basically said, "I'm not a rat, and if I am, come and me." And just before he took the witness stand, he posted this image, and it's with Sakchaser and Juvy in it. So I guess that's in commemoration. I mean, he was friends with these two guys. And then he proceeded to post this video by Charleston White with a caption that says, "Bruh bug." And in the video, Charleston White is basically talking about if you me up, he's gonna basically snitch to the prosecutors. So I'm curious as to who Trayvon Glass thinks is gonna him up for testifying. Now remember, he did take a phone call while he was in court, and that's when the judge had asked him, basically, who were you talking to? Trayvon had explained it was his brother calling, and he was just concerned about his whereabouts. In my opinion, it sounds like a number of people probably didn't want Trayvon Glass to testify today, so I'm curious as to who it was.
As the prosecution already revealed earlier on in the trial that YNW Melly was in fact picked up by Fredo Bang after the crime was done. So with Trayvon revealing he changed his clothing at Fredo's house, some of the pieces are now starting to come together.
And Chris Thomas are. So what you're also going to find out is while Mr. Devins is out there on the side of the road, 4 in the morning, 4:42 specifically, he sends a drop pin, digital homing beacon, to his current location to one of his friends, Frederick Givens. Frederick Givens is also involved in the music industry, and he asked to be picked up. Frederick Givens then, about 11 minutes later, is sent another drop pin where Mr. Devins has moved a couple of meters. What you're going to find out as well, though, is these digital leashes, they have more than just phone calls.
Now the jury knows not only did YNW Bortlen need to change his clothing, but YNW Melly did as well. So something had to have happened inside of that vehicle to the point where both of them needed to change their clothing as soon as humanly possible. Mix that information in with Sergeant Williams' evidence. This is very concerning for YNW Melly, as Sergeant Williams revealed exactly how it went down inside of the vehicle.
Assignment, which is to determine if this is a driver. And my determination was that this is not a drive-by, and it's based upon this picture here, which is a very good picture to describe it. All of these rounds are done. One is done at a stationary position. The at a stationary position when all but one of these rounds are going in. The one round that has some movement in it, which is round site L here. The actually moving in that to create the little bit of a that you see there.
Okay, a lot of information in that answer, so let's break it down a little bit. You mentioned so I'm going to zoom in on site F.
Sergeant Williams would also then share another piece of evidence that states YNW Melly is accused to be the one using the firearm in this situation. Williams, who said there was an item used 3 times inside of the Jeep, including 17 times outside of the Jeep.
Number, you said 17 outside the car. How many rounds were inside of the car?
3.
And can you exclude the for Mr. Williams and Mr. Thomas as coming from outside of the car?
Yes. From the driver's side back seat.
As to the shot that Christopher Thomas, where did that come from?
Driver's side back seat.
Okay. Is it possible for there to have been 2 inside that car?
No.
Why not?
There is no time.
With hard-hitting evidence now being shown against YNW Melly, what was happening with his mother outside of the courtroom was not helping. It would end up affecting him a lot during trial this week. As soon as trial started yesterday, it was reported before testimony kicked off Tuesday morning, the court learned YNW Juvy's sister allegedly reached out to YNW Melly's mother, Jamie King, on social media.
What's been going on in the courtroom?
Well, Anjanette, it's been a very interesting morning. It did start off earlier with the defense bringing up an issue. Apparently, Juvy's sister posted on, I guess, one of the social media outlets, and she said that she was going to Jamie King. And so that caused a big, issue in the courtroom. It wasn't anything that we got on tape, but it did happen this morning. It was on the record, and she has a bodyguard now. So that was one of the first issues that the court dealt with this morning. And it was interesting because the judge did basically say, if you needed more security, I can get it for you. Ultimately, it was determined that the security she had, the bodyguard, was going to be enough. So
this would even lead into YNW Melly's mother, Jamie King, now having a security guard with her at all times in and around the courtroom. Allegedly, this has affected YNW Melly in a major way, making him very concerned for his mother and almost looking like he was crying in the courtroom. As within hours of that report being released, including hours of investigating, we would find the social media interaction of YNW Melly's mother and YNW Juvy's sister on social media.
Now, shout out to Reddit, because we had to do some digging to find the sister. Now, this is the sister, Ashley Monique. And let me show you the post that she had posted on Facebook, because, honey, it was quite the stir. So she posted this screenshot from Jamie King, YNW Melly's mother, and she said, "Pest control, who called about?" Now, that was in regards to a post made by Trayvon Glass on his Instagram page, where he basically said that he's not worried about anything, and if he's come him. So in a nutshell, Melly's mom is calling Trayvon Glass a, and Monique replied back and says, "A is when you do something wrong and not take responsibility and then go and set somebody up because you're scared to lay down." She goes on to say, "That's not the case here. Fetty was Juvy's friend, not Melly. He was only around because Juvy brought him." Now in the comments, somebody says she better find something safe to do. Another person replied back and says, "Very well said." Another person tagged Jamie, and somebody else said, "Come get." Now, Ashley was in the comments and says, "She even has a bodyguard, child." Another person replied and says, "Yeah, she need one because she's talking like she's 200 pounds and she ain't even pushing 100. Now, somebody else posted this and says, "She's going to need them because she in the wrong city talking." Now, I think that when Melly's defense attorneys found this, they submitted it over to the judge and basically was like, Juvy's sister's out here Melly's mom. Now, the judge did state that if Melly's mom needed security, he would issue her security, and then he found out that she had a bodyguard, and that would be sufficient enough.
The judge in YNW Melly's trial would then grant free security for YNW Melly's mother. When Melly learned that information from his lawyer, he began smiling in the courtroom, as well as wiping his face off from the tears that he had. His lawyer knew that he was upset about the situation. That's why he even offered YNW Melly a hug during trial.
Jury entry.
The trial in general has been taking a toll on YNW Melly's mother. She has spoken out online to reveal that she's been dealing with a lot of stress ever since the trial began. This is when we would even see YNW Melly try comforting her in the courtroom.
Sorry. You'll just don't do it.
With YNW Melly and his mother now calm in the courtroom, things would just continue to get worse. They would find more incriminating text messages between Melly and his girlfriend if you really read through the lines.
Moving on to Friday, November 9th, 2029, 20 UTC, 2018. Message from Melly Montana to, again, that baby. What does that one say?
You don't with me anyways. I peeped it. You can slide, but God knows I wasn't in her and real breaking. You spoiled everything was given to you. You act like a some slide. I keep Bortlen with because
with YNW Melly stating that he will remain loyal to YNW Bortlen all the way until the end, and that Bortlen did one of the realest things in his life and would never switch up on him, it really makes you wonder what that might just be. However, it wasn't until this court's recess session where things would turn unbelievable. The next piece of evidence that was shared was YNW Melly's confession video to turning himself in. This is never before seen just until recently.
There is also video number 1, 2, 3, 4. And in that video, Mr. Devins uses a term that I don't want, that I think will be inflammatory, and on 403 grounds we would object. It refers.
Sure.
Listen to everybody. This is real footage. My name is Melly, and I'm gonna turn myself in, but I'm in a suitcase because they are arresting me, and I have to get on a private jet, and I don't want them to see.
That video has been talked about on social media for roughly 3 years now. No one knew if it actually existed, as very shortly after Melly's confession video, the prosecutors would also reveal this report inside of the courtroom. The Stranger Things jacket YNW Melly is wearing in this video, just hours after the crime, is the same one Juvy had on when they left the studio early on that morning. YNW Bortlen is wearing the one Sakchaser had on too.
You see him? Melly still turned regardless of what happened this early morning. He's still out here being very positive. Turned still. Hey! No, still turned. Regardless of what happened, you already know.
Not only is YNW Melly and Bortlen copying the clothing that Juvy and Sakchaser were wearing just hours prior to the crime, but Melly is dancing like he is one of the happiest people in the entire world. This is precisely how YNW Juvy's father described Melly's behavior when talking to him just a day after the incident. This would ultimately lead him to believing that YNW Melly was the guilty one right away.
From the day one, I believe that Melly was responsible for my son on October 26th when I first heard the story, because his explanation when I finally talked to him in Cortland on a FaceTime, their response and how they was reacting, they showed no remorse. They didn't act like they was grieving, like they lost a best friend or nothing. They was, in my opinion, they was in the best spirits. They wasn't reacting to, they act like they didn't have to take a loss at all. That's how I took it. And then when I was talking to them, I still had in the back of my mind that something's not right.
While YNW Juvy's father was speaking out online about his son, we would even see YNW Juvy's mother appear in the courtroom, confirming where her son and where YNW Melly were sitting in the vehicle on the night of the crime.
Can you state your name, your full legal name for the jury?
Leon Phillips.
Okay. And are you related to one of the kids in this case?
Yes, I am.
How so?
I'm his mother.
And who is that?
Christopher Thomas.
Positive 21915. Ms. Phillips, did you see who entered into the occupants who entered into that gray Jeep?
Mm-hmm.
And is that a yes?
Yes.
Do you recognize where your son entered that gray Jeep?
Yes.
Which seat, if you can identify for the jury?
He got in the back seat on the right hand side.
Did you recognize the individual that got into the back seat on the left side, the rear driver's side?
Yes.
And who was that individual?
Jamel.
And Jamel, is that the defendant, Jamel Demons?
Yes, ma'am.